Hi, this is Dr. Nazare coming to do another video for you guys again. I was missing for a while. I wasn't really missing. I just went to travel to Spain, which is where I'm going to be moving to within the next 9-10 months, something like that. So I will continue to do the videos, but that's where I was, and that's why I didn't upload any new ones. So I didn't know what I was going to talk about today until I had my practice patients coming to see me. And it just so happened that I had two of them that are in new relationships or dating. So I decided that that is a good topic to talk about, which is what happens when we're dating and what happens when we start in a new relationship. Again, the beginnings of dating, even if you start to look like it's more committed than just dating. So one of the characteristics of dating is that as we begin to connect with other people, I'm talking about when you begin to talk to somebody a little more regularly, and it begins to look like this might be a fit. So as that happens and you get a back and forth going, it is very natural to feel anxious. And as the relationship continues to more sense that it's going to work, the anxiety actually, and you focus more on one person, the anxiety actually goes up. So I thought I would talk a little bit about that, what that anxiety is about. And maybe I'll talk a little bit also about falling in love and what that's about. So in relation to dating and this anxiety that both my patients were experiencing, it is the result of uncertainty. So when you start dating, you don't know for sure whether this is going to work out. You don't know for sure whether the person really likes you. Even if the person shows signs of liking you, you don't know if that's going to stick. You don't know if they're going to continue with you. And this anxiety is the result of the uncertainty. So all of us humans are uncomfortable with anxiety, and some of us are more than others. But dating inevitably causes anxiety. The more that you want to be in a relationship, the more anxious you might feel because it becomes more important. So one thing that I wanted to share with you today is to understand and know that this is a very natural experience and it happens to absolutely everybody. The only person this is not going to be happening to is somebody who's already seeing other people and already feeling some kind of certainty with someone else. So for example, somebody who's cheating, having an affair, they may not feel that because they already have another relationship going on. But otherwise, having anxiety is natural. And both my patients had kind of a rejection of the anxiety and a rejection of themselves for feeling so anxious. And so that makes things worse. Remember that my leitmotif is to be kind and compassionate. So it is important that we understand that it's natural and therefore have some compassion for ourselves, that anxiety is fear, and that the fear is the result of not knowing, and not knowing causes anxiety in every one of us. Okay? So that's one thing I wanted to tell you. The other thing that I dealt with today with one of my patients is the notion of being in love. So I'll probably talk about this being in love in other episodes, but today I wanted to tell you that being in love is an extreme experience, and this is not how it's portrayed in society. It's portrayed as something that we fall in love. They call it falling in love, right? But we actually think that that is something that continues on. And that never continues on. I mean, literally never. So it is a very extreme and short-lived experience, and it's been studied. So at the most, the being in love phase lasts 2.5 years. If you have a long-distance relationship, if you don't see the person very often, it can last longer. The more that you connect with this person, the shorter the time period that the falling in love can be. But it can be 2.5 years, no problem. You can count on that pretty much. Only if you have less connection, it can actually prolong. Okay? So what do I mean by an extreme experience? I mean that it's an experience that is very specific and that is very high emotion and it's very excitatory. So you have a lot of dopamine release, as well as serotonin release, as well as norepinephrine release. These are all make happy hormones that happen in the brain. So we feel really, really high. And there's been a lot of research on this. Well, actually not a lot, but enough that we know. And it's been compared, and that it is actually the same as being on cocaine. So I want you to know that it is like being on cocaine, and you don't have to have been on cocaine to know. Like, I've never been on cocaine, but we know that cocaine makes people extremely happy, and the mood is really elevated. So that is what happens when we're in love, and there's characteristics that are universal, meaning across cultures and across people. And not too long ago, I was talking to a person who had been my supervisee, who's in her 50s, and I was smiling inside and outside when she was telling me about this person she was falling in love with. Because even though she's not young, she's not 18, she's not 25, she's not even 30, she seemed to not know, even though she's been married and clearly has had this experience before, she seemed to, and by the way, she's a psychologist, so you'd think she'd know, but many, many people don't know this. So she was talking about the following things happening in this relationship. And these are the universal items. So one of them is that you feel like you can talk to this person forever. Everybody says this. You can talk to this person forever. Another one is that you feel like you've known them forever also. Another one is that when there is conflict, when there's any type of conflict or friction, it gets resolved very easily. So this makes us incredibly happy, because generally when we have conflict with people, it doesn't resolve that easily, we get triggered. And so to be in a relationship where you do have some disagreement, some conflict, and it gets resolved easily, we think this is freaking heaven, like everything's going to work out, because you can resolve conflict. But this is typical of being in love, okay? What else is going on? Oh, another characteristic, which again, I'm reminding you, is like cocaine, is that if you ask the person if they would die for that person, they typically say they would die for that person. And another, that's how extreme it is. And another characteristic is that you think, and you're convinced that this person is really, 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 really unique. You think there's only one in a million, and this is it. This is the one in a million. Literally, it's so amazing and wonderful that you can barely believe that this person likes you. Never mind shows more than liking. Because if it's one in a million, my goodness, are you special and are you lucky, right? So I want you to know that these ways of thinking and experiencing are universal. Every time you fall in love, you have this happen. It's fascinating that we forget. We forget when we've been in love before. We fall in love 10 years later, 8 years later, 5 years later. We have the same experience again, and we don't seem to remember that we already were in this place with someone else. It's like we completely forget about it. It's fascinating. This must be the result of biology, which is trying to get you to reproduce. So to be very focused and become very excited by this person, and of course get sexual, which is how we reproduce, which is one of the mandates of biology for every species. So I want you to know this. Now, something that I was telling my patient today is that it is very important to understand when you do end up in some disagreement, some conflict, and you're able to work it out. It's important to understand that this is a passing phase. Don't take it as this is how it's going to be. Take it as, at the moment, in this state of mind, that is an extreme experience that passes, this is how it is. But don't assume, don't imagine that this is how it's going to be for the rest of your relationship, because that's not going to be the case. And don't also imagine that this way that the person is looking at you, which is when we're in love, we're looked at as glorious, that the person is going to continue to think that you are the most fabulous, unique, and amazing human being. And they may say it or not say it, but they definitely will look at you with eyes that display this level of excitement. So I really want you all to know that this experience is time limited. It is not shown in movies or novels, or unless it's a really good writer that's talking about how life really is. Because in movies, and by the way, I get very upset when I see this, they tend to display a couple who's been married for a while, and they have 3 or 4 children, and they're taking care of these young children, and they cannot wait to have sex with each other, and they receive each other as though, again, God has arrived, and as if they had just met. And I want you to know that that is not true. That's a lie. That would not be happening. And unfortunately, then many of us who don't know this, when it begins to wane, and when you begin to not feel so excited, and you're not so amazed by this person, and you begin to have things you don't like about this person, we tend to think that we must be in the wrong relationship. But it's not true. You may be in the wrong relationship, but it's not because of this. So another thing is, why does this last so short? Because if you think about it, and I'll tell you if you haven't thought about it, when we are in love, we are obsessed. We have like OCD. So another characteristic that I forgot to mention is that we wake up thinking about this person, and we go to sleep thinking about this person. And in reality, if we stayed in this state of mind that's glorious, everybody loves it, we would not achieve anything in life, because we really are not interested in much else. We wouldn't start new projects and do business transactions and boring things, because all we want to do is to be around this person. And to end, I want to say that one of the reasons that this feels so fantastic is because the person is relating to us as if we are unique and amazing, and it shows in how they look at us and how relate to us and how interested they are in us and how long they can talk to us. And it feels so good to have somebody be so interested in you. It's called mirroring in psychology. And I've talked a bit about narcissism, or more than a bit. So the more, this is not specific to a narcissist alone, but the more narcissistic that you are, the more likely that you're going to be over the top happy with somebody look at you this way, because they're really admiring you. They're really thinking you're the best thing on earth. And for a period of time, you really are. Oh, and something else I wanted to say that I just told one of my patients earlier is that it's not that they're playing you. It's not that they're faking it. It's not that they're like putting on their best behavior. They are actually putting on their best behavior, but it's not a game. It's not because they're faking it. It's because they're honestly God feeling that way. Sometimes people think they were putting something on, and when the beginning of the falling in love begins to fade, they feel cheated, they feel like they were lied to. No. Of course, it's possible that you were lied to, particularly if you were somebody like a sociopath or a con artist, absolutely. But in general, they're not faking it. They're really at their best. And to end, I'll tell you that another reason that you resolve conflict so easily is because your psychological triggers are like on break. So your psychological triggers are like really removed from your present experience. So all of us are injured, and all of us have psychological triggers, meaning that certain ways of relating to us make us feel from bad to horrible. And when we're in love, all of these psychological traumas and injuries that we have tend to recede. They kind of go away. So as a result, things that would normally upset you, trigger you, make you feel horrific, don't occur. Needless to say, when you're not triggered, conflict are very different experience. And as a result, you can resolve it very easily. I will talk more about this another day, but it just happened to be that I had 2 people, one starting dating and the other one a little further along with somebody who appears to be very interested in her and talking about future plans, which makes us feel better. And now that I say this, I'll add that maybe on the next video, I'll talk a little bit about attachment and what could make us feel more than the regular anxiety that every human will have when they're dating. Because there are some specifics that about our childhood and our development that could make our anxiety be higher than the normal average human being who doesn't have that kind of trauma. So I will talk about that next time, because that was happening to one of my patients. And then naturally you would have the regular anxiety, unfortunately, plus extra. And I want you to understand why that is. And again, have some care and compassion. That is normal. And that's the biggest thing I want to tell you today is this is normal. Falling in love is normal. I hope every one of you has fallen in love. Some people never fall in love. That's a huge loss. Most people do. and that to know that really this is a time, a capsule of time that cannot last forever. So you, in a relationship where you don't feel in love, but you love, and by the way, this is another thing I'll talk about another time, is what is the difference between in love and love? And there are entirely different things. So we don't know that, most of us, but they're really entirely different things. So I will talk about that in future videos. So that's it for today. I hope it's helpful. If it's helpful, please share it with other people. Subscribe if you think that you're gaining anything from these videos, if you're learning, if you're enjoying it. But most importantly, share it with other people, because again, my motivation is to pass this on to as many people as possible. So if you do that, it will help with that goal, and you may help someone else. So that's it for today. I hope you're having a wonderful day or evening, and I hope that you think about it a little bit, these things that I'm saying today, in relation to your own being mostly, but also in relation to others. Bye.